Hey there, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Strange Things by Mel. My name is Melissa, and I am back with another installment of Spot the Differences. Today's theme is wrap cardigans, specifically those ones which are cropped. So if you're unfamiliar with this video format, I do this as a way to practice comparing similar looking patterns in the hopes of helping you ultimately choose which pattern to follow and to purchase. So hopefully save you some time, save you some money. What I do is compile all the information that is freely available either from Ravelry or from a designer's website, put it all into a spreadsheet, a link to which you will find in the description, as well as a link to the Ravelry bundle containing all four of today's patterns. And then what I do is I go through each pattern, kind of laying out all the details of each one, and then whenever possible, kind of discuss pros and cons of each and insights if I can. So if I've knit a pattern, I'll let you know and how I felt about it, and just kind of have an open discussion about how they're similar and how they're different, and try not to let my bias come through, but it happens. But this information is all here for you, so you kind of listen, read the spreadsheet, and determine which one you like more. Some people like certain finishes more than others, so that's why I try not to be too biased and let you make that decision for yourself. By going through all the information, I also am trying to show you what information you can find just by reading and just by looking at the photos as well. So, without further ado, let's get started. Today's four patterns are the Levitate Wrap, the Late Summer Wrap, Ballerina Wrap top, and the Grace top. So let's go ahead and start with the Levitate Wrap, which happens to be what I am wearing today. I have made this twice, and I'm wearing my first version. And this one is with a single strand of a bulky weight yarn, Cascade Ecological wool. I made no modifications to mine, and I made size extra small in both the versions that I've made. This is a pattern that was released last March from My Favorite Things Knitwear, and it is described as an oversized wrap cardigan in loungewear style. The fit is short and boxy with extra long sleeves. I don't know if it's extra long, but I have long arms. I tend to have to lengthen most sleeve patterns, but they come to here on me for reference. The cardigan has a deep V-neck and double knitted edges and ribbons for tying. So before I move too far forward, I do want to say that what's similar between all four of these patterns, so yes, they're all wrap cardigans, they are all cropped. The ties for all of these cardigans, where you close them, are all at the bottom of the cardigan, and all of these fall near kind of the natural waist or past the natural waist, and these are all constructed top down. So back to the Levitate Wrap, constructed top down. This one features drop shoulder sleeves, and you start by casting on the back neck and create slopes. And those slopes are created with increases. And then you later once you've worked enough of the back yoke, you pick up stitches along these slopes for the front panels. And as you're working the fronts, you are increasing, the inside edge of these, so to create the wrap. And then you join them and you continue working flat back and forth. The sleeves, you do come back and pick up and knit those in the round. So double knitted edges for finishing, and the sleeves have a fold over cuff, which has one purl row to help, or round, to help with that folding over. So this pattern offers 8 sizes, extra small to 4XL. The finished bust circumference is 115 centimeters to 152 centimeters, or 45 3/4 to 59.5 inches. And there's a recommended positive ease of 30 to 35 centimeters or 11 and 3/4 to 13 and 3/4 inches. So given that positive ease, the actual bust circumference range is 80 to 122 centimeters or 32 to 47 and 3/4 inches. The gauge for this one is a bulky gauge or an Aran gauge at 15 stitches by 22 rows on 6mm needles. And you also need 5mm needles for the double knitting and 4mm for the end of the sleeves. The original sample was knit up in a combination of a lace weight plus a DK weight. But as I mentioned before, mine I knit in just a single strand of bulky weight. So that's all the details for the Levitate wrap. I'm going to continue and in the same fashion provide all the details for the rest of the patterns and then go into how they differ. So next one is the late summer wrap. This is a pattern from Knitting for Olive, which was also released last March, same time as the Levitate wrap. This one is described as a classic and elegant wrap designed to be worn over dresses or high-waisted jeans on chilly summer evenings. I have to say, that line right there, high-waisted jeans on chilly summer evenings, like, that's totally my jam. That's the line that sold me on this one. It is worked with one strand of merino and one strand of soft silk mohair held together throughout, a soft combination that will also keep you warm during winter. Now, when I say sold, I mean I did actually buy a kit and yarn and the pattern, but I will get into that later. So this one is, again, worked top down, worked back and forth in stockinette. This one is different from the Levitate wrap. It has saddle shoulders, so it has kind of looks like these like rectangles on the top of the shoulders, and it is a contiguous saddle shoulder construction. So there's no like seaming there. You work part of the neckline and like pick up and work seamlessly. This pattern is offered in 8 sizes, extra small to 4XL. The finished bust circumference range is 79 to 143 centimeters or 31 to 56 1/4 inches. Now this one has a recommended negative ease of up to 8 centimeters. So that's, 0, so no ease, up to 8 centimeters and negative ease, or 0 to 3 1/4 inches. So given that ease, the actual bust circumference range is 87 to 143 centimeters, or 34 1/4 to 56 1/4 inches. The gauge is 20 stitches by 29 rows on 4.5mm needles. You will also need 3.5mm needles for some finishing. And the yarn weight, as noted in the description, the original sample is knit with a strand of the soft silk mohair and the strand of the merino from Knitting for Olive. And it's from Ravelry, is listed as worsted. Is 20 stitches worsted? Yeah, I guess it could be light worsted, heavy DK. And so this one does not have double knitting like the Levitate wrap. It has 1x1 rib edges and ties. And these edges on the late summer wrap are created as you knit the body. So you do not come back later to pick that up. It's done as you go. And it has fold over cuffs just like the Levitate wrap. So let's move on to the Ballerina Wrap top. This is a pattern from Two of Wands, and this was, has been a free pattern on Alexi's website for quite some time. It was recently revamped, kind of redone this past February, because now there is a long sleeve version. So if you do want to follow the pattern for long sleeves, you will need to purchase that. However, if you are comfortable working that on your own and knitting and determining what your decrease rate is for your sleeves, if you're doing a tapered sleeve, for example, then you can follow the free pattern. This Ballerina Wrap top is described to be a trendy feminine touch to your wardrobe. This cropped cutie pairs perfectly with high-waisted jeans or sailor pants and looks stunning on its own or atop a camisole. So this one is worked top down with raglan sleeves. So body worked flat and then come back later to work the sleeves in the round. This one has I-cord edges and ties, and the sleeves are also finished with I-cord. There are 9 sizes offered, extra small to 5XL. The finished bust circumference range is 71 to 152.5 centimeters or 28 to 60 inches. And there's a negative ease recommended for this one, like the late summer wrap. Not as much. The range is a little bit smaller, 0 to 5 centimeters or 0 to 2 inches. So given that the actual bust circumference range is 76 to 152.5 centimeters or 30 to 60 inches. Gauge for this one is 20 stitches by 27 rows on 4mm needles, and suggested yarn is a single strand of DK. The last pattern is the Grace Top. This is the oldest pattern of the group. Was released October 2016 by Kate Oates, and it's also described as being a feminine design that complements skirts and dresses while pairing just as perfectly with your favorite pants. Top-down construction, also with raglan sleeves, just like the Ballerina Wrap top. And for finishing, this one also has I-cord edges and ties, and this one has 1x1 twisted rib on the sleeves. This pattern offers a whopping 13 sizes, labeled 1 to 13, and this one has kind of no ease recommended, so you choose a size that's closest to your actual bust measurement, maybe bias to a little bit smaller if you want a little bit of negative ease is what's suggested. So because there's no ease recommended, the finished bust circumference and the actual bust circumference are the same in this case. The range is 67.5 to 163 centimeters or 26.5 to 64.25 centimeters. This is absolutely great that there are so many sizes offered. In this case, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has like a really big range. This largest size is 64.25 inches. So seeing this many sizes, actually means there's many size increments, and there's about a 2 to almost 4-inch difference or increment between the sizes. So this is great if you are kind of in between sizes. This allows you to choose hopefully a size that is closest to your actual bust measurement. So let's get into some more details that aren't necessarily stated in these patterns, but things that you can deduce from the information from the photographs. So the Levitate Wrap is the only one in this group that has positive ease recommended and has quite a bit of positive ease. This one kind of oozes comfort, as I said, loungewear. Just as easily can be worn over a dress with pants, just like the other tops. But this one, in terms of styling, I see this one as perhaps maybe more for the cooler days because it can be knit with such a thicker wool. Doesn't mean you can't switch to, say, a cotton yarn as long as you meet gauge. But it just gives that kind of cozy look. I mean, you look at the model, the way she's kind of standing there with her hands in her pockets and the shorts kind of leaning against this window in this, cozy looking cabin, like just oozes comfort, right? In terms of the sizing for the Levitate Wrap, I have to say that I still question the size of the model and the size of the sample on the model. I can't find her measurements or the size that she's wearing or how much ease she has. So I'm wearing size extra small, and that's actually the recommended size based on my bust circumference. Yet if you look how mine fits me, it really, I don't know, does it look like it has that much positive ease? I guess in a way it does, but I have had some people comment that they decided to choose the Levitate Wrap because it looked like it had less positive ease based on how mine looked, which mine also does look a little bit shorter because I do have a little bit of a long torso, but also, especially my second version, my green one, it is shorter than the pattern measurements by about, like 2 inches, maybe at most. So yeah, a little bit of a difference, but for me, that means mine hits at my natural waist. And because I almost exclusively wear high waist bottoms, this is just like a more flattering length for me. I feel like it's a little bit longer on the model. I just wanted to note that for anyone who's trying to choose a size. But I did measure mine after, and it does come up to the pattern measurements, except for the length being a little tiny bit shorter. I also knit my ties a little bit shorter on this version because I don't do a bow. So just like the sample photo, it's just an overhand knot. But for my second version, I did make the ties a little bit longer so that I can tie it into a bow. A note on the pattern, there is one error for size extra small, and it's a stitch count error when you get near to the end of the body. In the grand scheme of things, it's not critical. If you miss it, it's going to turn out fine. It's literally just, two stitch count difference. So you might, like, you're probably right. And if you're looking at the number and you're like, oh, I think it's too many or something like that, it's fine. Other people have noted this in their Ravelry project pages as well. I don't know if this affects any of the other sizes, but for size extra small, there is one error there. I do have a vlog on knitting up the Levitate Wrap, so if you haven't seen that, there's some more tips in that video. Feels kind of weird kind of advertising myself, but it's there in case you need a little bit of extra help. It follows along the entire knitting journey of this wrap and my thoughts on it as well, should you decide to knit up the Levitate Wrap. Let's go on to the late summer wrap. So I do have this one on my needles. I cast this on last year, and unfortunately at a time where I was experiencing some castanitis, and it just kind of got pushed to the side. And part of that also was that I was struggling a bit with the pattern writing. I found it a little bit difficult to follow, and I thought, is this just me because I haven't followed a knitting for olive pattern before? But I did read some other project pages on Ravelry, and some other people noted some difficulty with the writing as well. So I would just, be aware of that. This one, I really wanted it to work because of the saddle shoulders. I'm kind of digging the saddle shoulders, and I'm also digging contiguous method as well. And so I'm hoping to get back to this one. This one, from my experience so far, I will say that I am a bit skeptical about how the back collar or the neckline is going to fit. So you cast on that little bit of the top of the collar, which is a knit one, purl one pattern, and then you will need to come back and pick up stitches along the bottom to start making the body. And then this bit of neckline collar that you cast on, eventually, like, you keep working it and it turns into the edge of the neckline here. So it continues on. I'm skeptical about whether, the stitch gauge versus the row gauge works, because I've seen on some people, and I've also read on other people's pages, that it doesn't fit snugly around, the back of their neck, that it might stick up a bit, or they'll try to pull the cardigan tighter to close it. Like, there's some fit issues going on for some people in this pattern. And so it could be either maybe like on paper, based on the math, the row gauge, stitch gauge calculation works in the pattern, but real world situation it's not. Or are people, maybe they have or haven't gauge swatched or haven't adjusted any of their stitches or rows based on their swatch. It raises a lot of questions. Maybe it's just not many people have also knit this up. So maybe is that enough proof to say that it doesn't work as well? I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it. Don't want to be too biased, but that has been my experience so far. I do want to give it another go though, because I did buy the yarn specifically for this pattern, and I don't like to give up on something. So I'll try again when I'm in, a better mood and have less projects on my needles. I do like that the edge is done once you finish the body. You don't have to come back and pick up the stitches. So that's definitely a pro for the construction method for the late summer wrap. The double knitting on the Levitate wrap can be a little bit of a barrier for some people, especially if you've never done double knitting. I love double knitting. I actually enjoy doing it. I love the look of it. Yes, it does take time because essentially 2 rows of double knitting equals 1 regular row of knitting. So that's why it takes so much longer. But I'll tell you, it is so worth it. So the ballerina wrap top. This one gets a bonus point because this one contains a full schematic and chart of measurements for this garment. That is something that is lacking for both the Levitate wrap and the late summer wrap. No schematic. Is a schematic necessary? Is it mandatory? No, but it certainly helps people who may need to make adjustments here or there, especially if you're someone whose body proportions, which I think there's quite a few of you out there, don't match the standard size chart. So you might have a large bust, but you need a smaller armhole. Having that schematic to look at and kind of just assess as well, like, is this pattern going to work for me? Where am I going to need to make adjustments? And kind of seeing it there without having to put in extra work of math and reading through the pattern, which if you don't have the schematic, then you can't, and if you haven't purchased the pattern, then you can't read through the instructions and see all the stitch counts and do your math. So this is like, you're kind of jumping in without that tool. So there is a full schematic for the ballerina wrap top with all the measurements there, which is great. And that's on the free version as well. So you can see that right on Alexi's website, the Two of Wands website. The ballerina wrap top and the grace top are finished with I-cord edges. The ballerina wrap top does note applied I-cord, which would mean that you don't have to pick up all the stitches to do the I-cord. You kind of pick up as you go is what I would understand it. And regular I-cord would be that you have stitches on your needles and then you work them as you go. I don't know in which areas where you're doing regular versus applied, but the mechanics are very similar. And I believe both the ballerina wrap top and the grace top have holes in the side. Actually, I forgot to mention that. The late summer wrap also has a little hole in the side for the longer cord or tie to pass through so that it can wrap around your back and then tie on the side. So there's very long ties in the late summer wrap, ballerina wrap top, and grace top because you are pulling a tie all the way around to your back. To meet the one on the other side of your wrap. Whereas the Levitate wrap, it does not wrap around your back. Let me see if I can stand up and show you. You just have the 2 ties. So one is an extension of the right front. And the other tie, you knit and graft it or sew it onto here. So there's nothing, no extra in the back. There's just those 2 ties there. So is there a pro or con about that kind of tying method? I suppose it depends on how you wear it. With this one, I guess with the Levitate wrap, there's no visible cord in the back. It's just, pretty clean. It's just the double knit edge on the bottom. Whereas the other ones, you can clearly see that in the back. So I guess you want to make sure you tie that kind of snugly. That could be a nice kind of like styling feature of it though, showing, a little peekaboo of the body of the cardigan and then having a bit of the tie there, especially if yours is past your natural waist. So you can almost create not full peplum look, but you're adding to that kind of hourglass shape if that's what you're going for, if that's how your body is shaped. There is a difference in how the holes are made. I haven't gone far enough in the late summer wrap to know how the hole is made. I have a guess it's kind of going to be similar to like how you'd make a buttonhole or bind off some stitches to create the hole. Same goes for the ballerina wrap top. The Grace top does actually note that there is an optional steeking method to create that hole for the tie to pass through. And instructions for steeking for that is included in the pattern. And also another pro or bonus point for the Grace top, along with it having 13 sizes, is that it does note that a schematic is available. It's not shown anywhere on a Ravelry, but it is noted as something in the attributes as being available. So I don't know how many measurements are on that schematic, but it's nice that that's something that's in the pattern. Now, the ballerina wrap top and the Grace top are the most similar in this group. They are both top-down raglans. They both have I-cord edges. So why would you choose one over the other? Maybe you choose the ballerina wrap top because there's so many more projects done in Ravelry because you have so many other projects to look at. I don't know why the Grace top doesn't have very many projects in Ravelry. Given that it is an older pattern too, it certainly has the opportunity to kind of rack up the number of projects, but it hasn't, and I'm not sure why. But there is a difference in the gauge. So they're both DK, but the ballerina wrap top has a 20 stitch gauge and the Grace top has a 22 stitch gauge. So maybe you are a tight knitter or a loose knitter. That could help you decide which one you want to do. What kind of fabric would you like? Given that you had, one kind of DK yarn, myself, I would lean towards more of the Grace top because I like the idea of a tighter, more structured fabric. It is only a 2-stitch difference, but it could be just enough to kind of close the gaps, especially if you're looking to wear this just over a bra, for example, and you just want a little bit less transparency that way, maybe a little bit less stretch as well. If you have a more rigid fabric, that could be something that you may want to consider. I'm also not sure about the increase rate in the front between these two. There are photos for the ballerina wrap top and notes of people saying that is quite a deep V. Many people have said that they definitely need to wear a camisole underneath. That's a styling thing though, like maybe you have a great bust and you want to show that off, then the ballerina wrap top may be just what you need. But that may be something you may need to adjust for or check out the other project pages. Hopefully there's some projects there of your size or people of a similar body shape for you to make a decision that way. But again, these ones with the negative ease are adjustable. This wrap style makes, you can wear it loose if you want to, like hang it open a bit, get some airflow through there. Or wear it really tight and it's just a top, as in the name implies for these raglans, ballerina wrap top, Grace top. These ones are kind of implying that, you wear this not layering over something, unlike the Levitate Wrap, which is, something that's a little bit heavier, something with positive ease. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt underneath mine. I could probably fit in another shirt underneath mine. So take that into consideration as well on choosing your pattern. How are you going to wear it? How are you going to style it? So a quick recap of today's patterns. Regardless of which one you choose, a cropped wrap cardigan is going to provide some great waist definition. It pairs well with high waist bottoms, or you can even style it over top of a dress. The Levitate Wrap has drop shoulder construction, positive ease, and double knitted edges and ties, and is knit with a bulky weight gauge. The late summer wrap has contiguous saddle construction, negative ease, and 1x1 rib edges and ties, and is knit with a heavy DK or light worsted gauge. The ballerina wrap top has raglan construction, negative ease, finished with I-cord edges and ties, and is knit with a DK gauge. The Grace wrap has raglan construction, negative ease, also finished with I-cord edges and ties, and is also knit at a DK gauge. Alright guys, that is it for today. I hope this information was helpful to you. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you have knit any of these patterns, let us know if you recommend any of these or can offer some insight to others who may be considering any one of these patterns. Again, the spreadsheet, the link to my spreadsheet will be in the description, as well as a link to the Ravelry bundle containing all 4 patterns. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.